what Dan had mentioned. So welcome everyone. Welcome SNHU family. My name is Denise Meadows. I'm a career team lead and fellow first gen student, graduate, professional, all of the above. And on behalf of the SNHU First Generation Work Group, happy First Generation Celebration Day and Week. So this is really SNHU's opportunity to recognize all of our students and graduates who are first in their families to go to college and earn a college degree. So we're really excited. This is an initiative really here at SNHU where we hope to build this community. So I just wanted to let you know that this session will be recorded. And also thinking about like building that community. I know that some of you started to make some introductions in the chat, but feel free to introduce yourself, put your name, where you're signing in from, and it's really all about starting the conversation. And speaking of starting the conversation and thinking about what that might look like for us throughout the session, feel free to continue adding comments, questions in the chat. We'll have members of the work group here, as well as other staff members that can answer questions that you might have. Even our panelists could respond to some of the questions in the chat as well. So feel free to do that. If you can, just keep your mics on mute while others are talking, so that helps with less disruptions. As far as we appreciate if you're on camera, but really, personal preference. So whatever you're comfortable with, and especially if you're asking questions, you want to go on camera, all of that is really what we hope to accomplish in having this conversation. So I will start off again with some housekeeping, and I'm going to just read directly from our access and accommodation slide. So your experience here at Southern New Hampshire University is important to us. It is our policy and practice to create an inclusive and accessible learning environment. If there are aspects of this presentation's design or delivery that present barriers to accessibility, please notify the following. So if you're an online student, please contact our Online Accessibility Center by emailing oac@snhu.edu or by phone at 866-305-9430. If you're a campus student, please contact our Campus Accessibility Center by emailing cac@snhu.edu or by phone at 603-644-3118. If you are an SNHU staff and faculty member, please contact our Human Resources Office by emailing hr@snhu.edu. All right. So I want to take this moment to introduce the members of our first generation work group here at SNHU. So we have Dr. James Winfield with us, and he is our Associate Dean of First Year Experience, General Education, and Retention Strategies. So you'll hear from James in a bit as well. We also have Helena Iaquinta, and she is our Director of Inclusive Leadership Development as part of the Office of the President. Amanda Siebel, she is our Director of the Office of Student Involvement. Myself, David Hodes, who is a member of our undergraduate admissions office, and Daniel Gannon, who is an associate dean in our STEM vertical in mathematics. So thanks so much to my colleagues that I've worked with as part of bringing this session to you all this evening, for your collaborative efforts, for your motivation to continue to create this community. It's been a pleasure and it's been an honor to work alongside you. So we really are excited that for tonight, we do have a video to share and a welcome message from our university president, Paul LeBlanc. So we'll play that message, and then following that, we'll hear from Dr. Winfield.
Hi, I'm Paul LeBlanc, president here at Southern New Hampshire University. There are lots of events that I attend. This is one I hate to miss because the challenge of being a first generation college student is one that I experienced directly. I was first gen. I was one of 5 kids in my family and the only one to go to college. And I remember the feelings, sort of imposter syndrome, do I really belong here? Sometimes the crisis of confidence, or the fact that I would go back to a house where no one had my frames of reference. There's a funny phrase that someone quoted to me about being a tweener. When you're a first generation college student, you go off to college, you don't quite feel like you fit in there, but when you go home for that first holiday, you don't always quite feel like you fit in there anymore, and you get stuck in between. So the notion of tweener. And of course, first generation college students exemplify the American dream, the promise of higher education, that we unlock opportunity, that higher education is the greatest tool of social mobility we have. And when I think about my own experience and then what that made possible for my 2 daughters, it was access to high quality education that made all the difference. In that context, institutions all have to do better. We have to do better. And this is a place that I think of as warm and welcoming and really full of first generation students. But even then, what the research tells us, for example, is that a first generation college student is less likely to ask for help because they feel like, oh my God, that's going to tell everyone that I really don't know what I'm doing, that I don't belong here. And of course, students who come from privilege or who have, whose parents went to college, they get trained to do the opposite. They get trained to ask for help, to network, to say, can you help me with this work that I'm struggling with? We first generation students aren't so good at that right away. So we've got to be better. And I think the thing that makes the most difference is the sense of community that we can create. It's the community of first generation college students where you look over and you go, oh, you too, or I didn't realize. And when we can layer in faculty and staff who also walk the first gen path, it makes it even more powerful. So panels like this, really important. Really important that we're talking about it. Really important that we're sharing our experience. Because when we succeed, when a first generation college student walks across that graduation platform and gets that diploma and we're wearing our robes, that's the win. That's the victory. That's where it begins. That's where we change the multi-generational trajectory of a life, of a family life. And that's what this is about. So thank you so much. I wish I could be there with you. This is an important conversation, and it's one that I feel deep in my own heart.
All right, I'll turn it over to James.
All right. Well, those were such great words, and to hear from a true advocate for first generation students and an advocate for access and success in education, our president, Dr. Paul LeBlanc, is really great. And he is very much on board with a lot of these efforts. So just want to First off, I'm James Winfield. I serve as the Associate Dean for FYE. You saw that on the slide where my name is there, along with the others that are working on the work group to lead these efforts. So we're just really excited to really build a culture around this identity, and to just ensure that support and that belonging exists, and to hear from students, former students who have experienced that. So I just want to recap the session just to let you know like, what you're getting into today. So with that, you're going to hear from some former first generation students who have navigated SNHU, along with discovering and empowering stories of their trials and triumph, and then create connections as part of the SNHU First Gen community, which is a community that we know there's about 40% of our students that identify as first generation. So that lends into the need to have panels like this, to have opportunities to connect and commune. And then we have several faculty and staff who have shown that they are also advocates and are first gen as well. So with that being said, I'm going to hand it over back to Denise, and then we're going to proceed with asking a couple of questions and to get to know the panel.
All right, so this is our opportunity to introduce our alumni panelists. So we'll just go in this order, if that's okay. And for each of you, If you can just tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and then as part of your introduction, if you could just reference like when you were thinking about making that step to pursue your college studies, earn that college degree, like why SNHU? So how did that factor in thinking about SNHU as part of that decision? So we'll start with Jake.
Awesome. Thank you all for being here tonight. It's an honor to be here on this panel. As a first gen college student, I didn't have the most easy road to get here. And thanks to SNHU, I was able to accomplish more than I ever dreamed that I would in my educational goals. I currently work in a human resources and finance officer at the largest charter school in the state of North Carolina. So I do a wide range of risk management, HR type jobs. And both of my degrees from SNHU have been very beneficial in that. One thing that set SNHU apart for me was the advising team. Everyone that I ever spoke to was positive and upbeat. All of my educators were amazing, and they were, worked in the field that I was studying, so they knew when I was learning marketing in undergrad, they knew what marketing was. They had done it for a top 400 company and could really educate me on the subject more than a textbook could. So yeah, and of course the touching classmates all over the world, even though I might have been in my bedroom at 11 o'clock at night doing my homework, was also a treat.
Hi, I'm Allison. Oh, sorry, are you done, Jake? I want to make sure.
Yeah, yep, you're good.
Oh, perfect. Okay. I'm Allison Rodoff. I'm a project attorney with the Human Trafficking Institute, and actually currently doing a program in London for a Master's of Laws degree as well. So kind of doing full-time school, part-time work, and graduated SNHU in 2017. Um, for me, SNHU, the draw to SNHU, I should say, actually had just finished my associate's degree from a local community college. And my husband is in the Army, and we were PCSing to Key West, Florida, and there were no four-year schools there. I was working in retail management at the time and wanted to continue my career progression, but also wanted to continue my education. And so I wanted to find a school that would allow me to strike that balance and be able to have the flexibility to continue those classes while having the flexibility with my ever changing and rotating retail schedule. And it was perfect. And like Jake said, having the advisors who really cared and who would call me up every month or every couple months and be like, hey, it's about time to register again. Like, what class do you want to do next? Um, that for me was a huge selling point because I had dealt with a couple other schools before that and never had that kind of assistance and had to fight to try to ask questions and to try to figure out what I needed to take next or how I needed to do certain things. And the SNHU experience to me was amazing. And I've recommended it to so many people since then, but it was definitely for me, especially like being so far separated from a four-year college at the time, it was the perfect choice for me in the flexibility and then being able to have the reach from where I was. So yeah, it was a great choice and I'm very happy with it.
All right, turn it to you, Raphael.
All right. So my name is Rafael Matias. I joined SNHU while I was still in active duty. I'm transitioning right now, so I'm still active duty per se, but I'm doing a program right now where Skill Bridge. And so when I inquired to college back in 2017, I inquired like in 3 or 4 colleges, and they didn't take my credits because they were nationally accredited, and those credits dated back from 2008 2009. And one of the educational advisor at the education center in the army ed office, they told me, why don't you check SNHU? And I applied to SNHU, and they applied 60 credits out of my program all together with the JST, which is what the army gives you credit for, the training that you have done. And after that, it just was a great experience. I had an amazing advisor, my professors, everything. I was so happy with Southern New Hampshire University that I told my wife, when I finish my program, I want to teach there. I want to go as a faculty. And matter of fact, I just got accepted, and I passed the onboarding. So I'm gonna start being teaching in January. SNHU is just amazing. I'm really happy being part of this community.
That is awesome. I love that. Hi, everyone. I am Kiara Fuentes. I'm so happy to be here. I am a 2021 graduate. Super happy to be first gen. Neither of my parents graduated high school, let alone college. So this was huge for me. For two girls of my own, I felt like I needed to definitely further my education. And it's so funny because it literally came to me. I was out of school with my associate's degree 4 years. And then I was like, you know what? I need to go back to school. I was pregnant with my now 3, she'll be 4 in December, 4-year-old. And I was like, you know what? Now's the time. If I continue wait, it's going to be 10 years later and I'm not going to go back to school. So I literally took the first step. I kept seeing the commercials everywhere, and I'm sure everyone has seen them. And I was like, he just keeps saying, now is the time, now is the time. And I took the first step. I called, I got connected with some great advisors, as everyone is saying, spoke to some great faculty. And literally my first semester, I was giving birth to my child. And I was literally in the weeks of finals. And I was like, you know what? I have to push through it. Literally after giving birth, I had 2 hours to submit my final, and I made sure I put it in there, got it done before 11:59 p.m. So that's just the talk of me. Like I felt so good to really be a part of an environment and a space, not only with great professors, but students as well. Super supportive, being able to branch out on each other. Procrastination was the biggest thing for me. I was terrible at like always trying to meet deadlines, but I think the biggest thing for SNHU for me was certainly my advisors and speaking with my professors. They just like were so understanding with everything, and I knew like I had to push myself because they weren't gonna reach out to me like, hey Kiara, don't forget you have that assignment due Sunday. So it was just a really great opportunity. I'm so excited to be a part of this, and I think it's super important to have these conversations, and I'm super excited to be a part of it because I can have these conversations with my girls as they grow up. Sky's the limit. You're going to face everything every day, but you certainly have to keep pushing. And no matter what you're going through, listen, giving birth, losing family, like going through hardship in life, I feel like all that pushed me to certainly walk across that stage. And it's no better feeling than grabbing that diploma and saying I did it. So super excited to be here. Thank you guys for having me.
That's also awesome to hear, and thank you so much for those wonderful introductions and sharing some of your story. So I'll turn it over to James, and James has some questions to get us started. And then as you think about your own questions, again, feel free, go ahead, pop those in the chat. Or, once we finish our starter questions, we'll definitely open it up for Q&A as well.
Right. Yeah. So the first question is actually kind of in line and syncs up so perfectly with what Kira was just talking about. So, what motivated you to make the commitment to college?
Yeah, this is really kind of speaks into heart of my whole career is going to college, staying in college, and continuing on. Growing up, neither of my parents obviously went to a university or anything. My dad was a partner in a company with his father. My mom was able to stay at home and raise the kids because the company was doing well until the housing market kind of stopped in 2005. My dad had to start over in a job market where everyone was going to college. So I lived as a kid watching what starting over looks like and not being prepared to re-enter a workforce after you've prepared for something your entire life. So that then I was, I didn't know what I wanted to do in college, but I had a little bit of pressure behind me of you're going. I don't care what it's for. I don't care for how long, but you're going to get some type of a degree. If I have to quit and go with you, you're going. I was an average student. And until I found SNHU, all of my grades were definitely average. But I think there's something in light of finding what you really like and enjoying where you're at. Commitment, staying through was, just finally enjoying what I was learning, enjoying what was happening in my classes and, the knowledge I was getting from our professors. to really strengthen me to continue on and then apply to go again. A couple years ago, I never saw that I would be going to grad school and finishing and having a super high GPA, but I did it because of, once you start doing it, you kind of, it's almost like an addiction.
That's so true. I feel the same way. I keep joking with my husband that at some point I might have to get my PhD, and here we are. So, that's one of those things that for me, what started my motivation. I was a late in life college student in general, so I actually didn't have a great education growing up, and worked from the time I was 13 years old, had two jobs at 15, and didn't really finish high school. So for me, getting started in college at my local community college was such a daunting thing for me. I had to go take remedial classes and try to figure out where I had placed and things, and I was just absolutely terrified. But I knew, like, I'd always loved learning, and so I, more than anything, wanted to be wanted to get that degree and wanted to have more education. And I knew, like, I had done well in my jobs at that point and had continued to grow in every job that I had been in. But I knew that at some point I was going to hit, a ceiling with that. And I knew that if I wanted to kind of continue my career progression, I would need to have a degree. And so thankfully, my husband helped encourage me along the way and just said, take the first step, like just start taking one class at a time. And I mean, I didn't know what I wanted to do initially. Like, I literally started out in like nursing program, and I was like, I'm not doing that. And then, started, moving around to these different things, and kind of finally found where I wanted to go. But, just knowing that, like, I was going to be the first in my family to achieve this, and coming again from like such a lack of education growing up, it was one of those things that, like Jake said, I think it's also addicting because, like, once you see that I can do this, like, I am capable of this, and like you love the learning and like finding out, I don't know, I still love it. Like, even now sitting in class, I'm just like, this is so cool. And so I think that helped with the commitment and finding what you love, right? Like finding what you're passionate about in school. And it really helps, one, finding a school that you love, but also finding the topics and the classes that you really enjoy. There's going to be some that maybe aren't like your favorite, but like, it's one of those things that, that commitment to being there and being done, it was just, yeah, I think having that motivation behind me really helped kind of get me there and keep me through. But my husband was definitely a big motivator in all of that, because there were definitely times that I was like, what am I doing here? Like, why do I keep doing this to myself? And he was there the whole time, just kind of pushing me. So it was good. I'm so happy that he did.
All right. So my decision to go to school was based very much on, I wanted to break a cycle. I wanted to stop the not going to school thing on my family, so I can teach my kids, to reach for the education level. And I was in the same situation as Jake. I wasn't 100% sure what I wanted to do, but I just wanted to get started. Um, when I started going to school, and I started influencing my kids so much. Now my daughter's going to Southern New Hampshire University. She started this uh, now in this quarter. This is its first time. So I feel like my mission is getting accomplished somehow. So breaking that cycle and influencing other people. I have gotten more than 10 soldiers to join university, because I started getting knowledgeable on all the Army education program, telling soldier, promoting this. I think about 5 of them are on SNHU. Some join Liberty University, and some other join different other college. So I think that um, I think that I have been able, from the time that I started, that I had this idea, I have been able to endorse education and influence people to go to school as well, and not wait so long or break that cycle. Um, and I think that was my main motivator, just breaking that cycle and just start getting an education.
I am so with that. I think the biggest thing was generational curses for me. Having coming from the youngest of 5 children, my parents didn't complete high school, didn't go to college, neither of my siblings, and being the youngest, and you feel like all the eyes and pressure is on you, like she's going to be the good one. I had to be that. I I had my first daughter very young, and the stigma behind having a child young was already like I wasn't going to go far. Like I was going to drop out of high school, wasn't going to see college, so like that was already on my back. And I was like, you know what? Not today, not for me. So certainly being able to like grow up with my first child and be like, you know what? I'm going to do this. Going to community college just as Lisa, and like, starting there anywhere, like I'm just going to go to college, and then understanding like that really opened a big exploration for me to like really want to finish my education, meeting people, networking, and then again having that huge break of not having any type of education and just experiencing the real world and working, and then literally turning on my TV and say SNHU is it. Looking at the flexibility, looking how easy it was to sign up, how convenient it was, affordable at that, and then just the ability to do it at home. I was like literally completing things on my phone, on my laptop, on my desktop, but just like the flexibility of doing it on my time, but also staying committed to being like, okay, we have to make sure it's done. So definitely my biggest motivation were my children, and making sure that they had a great positive example of what it looks like to keep on moving, keep on pushing, despite everything. And I'm happy to say that I got through. The biggest thing that really pushed me to keep on going, I would have to say, is certainly my kids, seeing me get up every day and like log on, sign on to school, and then being able to get up and go to school themselves. It was like we were doing this together. So it only made me even more thrilled to like have both of them sitting in the stands when I walked across the stage and say I completed my education. So that is my biggest motivation for sure.
Wow, all of those accounts are so powerful and really lend to, the motivators, right? Whether it's something external, whether it's family or whatever it may be, there's so many things out there that help you to want to do different, for yourself and better in many ways. So thank you all for sharing that. And I'm going to hand it over to Denise to share our next question.
Sure. So when you thought about college as that next step, what did you envision for yourself? Like, what were some of the expectations that you had for that experience? How did the experience possibly like live up to those expectations? Or I would say align. Let me say align with those expectations or otherwise. So what did that journey look like for you based upon the expectations that you had at the onset?
Like I said a minute ago, I was an average student. So going in, I was like, man, this is going to be difficult. First in the family, how am I supposed to take this? Who do I turn to in the family that can be like, oh, well, you're doing a good job. Just keep doing this. Here's something I know. Here's a note taking skill or something simple. And I was also, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I kind of skipped a couple spots of I was at two different institutions before Southern New Hampshire. I went the 4-year private university route and did not like it. Did complete my associate's degree at a community college after suckering up my pride and decided that was a good start for me. And realized that I needed to find something I was going to enjoy, or else I was not going to get through it. I failed classes. I dropped classes. I, completely decided that a couple different fields were not my fit. And I was just really prepared for the rigor. But once I really found what I enjoyed, and found somewhere that I was supported, and I could call my professor after I emailed them at 6 o'clock, and they said, well, just call me at 8 o'clock and we'll talk it through. What? Really? I was like 2 days to get an email at my last school. What do you mean that we're going to be able to talk this through on the phone? And it's a real world problem that I can even use at work. So it's definitely, my expectations in the beginning were very different than midway through, when I was like, oh, well, I can really do this and accomplish something because I've got a support system now.
I love that. I think for me, my expectations like coming into college was, well, I mean, not having a good education. I was really, really nervous and very intimidated. And I was an older student. So I was like in my mid 20s, starting out at community college, you know. And so being an older student coming into that is already, I think you already have like this idea of, again, how is this gonna be, and then again, not having a good education and kind of having to go back and do those remedial classes. But I think what was one of the biggest points for me was when I was in an algebra class, and I actually had the courage to like get up and go and do a problem on the board. And I never thought in my life that I would have ever had like the confidence in what I was doing at that point to like go solve a problem on the board. And for me, it was that you know, seeing that, hey, like getting this and understanding this and getting this knowledge is really opening my eyes to this world of so much more, and being able to like this, I can do this. And so I think that that exceeded my expectations in that sense, right? Like I was excited about learning, but I didn't think that it was going to be such an impactful thing to where having that experience would kind of spark this journey that I'm now on, you know, still doing education. But I think there were some other expectations on the other end where coming into school, I thought that, you know, initially that schools would be more helpful with, you know, all kinds of things, and it would be easier to sign up, and that people would be more helpful with like how you were supposed to pick classes and how you were supposed to figure out which major you were going to do. And I did not have that experience at other schools, and I had to track people down, and people weren't in their office or didn't respond to emails. And so when I experienced talking to SNHU and having that guidance and having that tailored conversation, people always being available to talk to me, it made such a difference, and it really helped help me navigate that, because that, I mean, that is such, it was again one of those things that you don't know. I mean, coming from first gen, you can't ask. And like Mr. LeBlanc mentioned, it's like one of the things you don't think to ask those questions. And so I think that was one of the expectations that wasn't fulfilled at other places, but SNHU definitely took that and made it such an easy process compared to anywhere else that I've been. So, and I think that's opened up, you know, again, so many doors, because it kept me there, it kept me on course and on my goal, and kept me moving forward. So.
So when I first started, I didn't really have much expectations. I was kind of jumping in the dark. I started building my expectations in the midpoint as I went in. I think a lot of things that start clarifying things for me was when the professor started sharing resources. I was doing the bachelor's on game art and design, so they start all these resources that they started sharing, and I start building my expectation within the industry of what game design is, what digital art is, and
Thank you
I
for
could go
calling
that way.
Southern New Hampshire University. Student Financial Services. This call may be monitored or recorded for quality or training purposes. This is Amy. How
Hi, Amy.
Okay.
I don't think you're on mute. If you can mute yourself, please.
I think we just got Amy all settled.
We're all
squared
set.
away.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
So
Raphael.
yeah, one thing that I did remember I had was big fear, because my English was super basic back then, and I did not have an expectation to fail, but I was a little bit afraid. And as I went on, I started kind of brushing off, getting more confidence, and learning more. But yeah, that's about it. My expectation, that was like a slow process, not an immediate thing that just happened.
For me, as an online student, my expectation, I was just like, there's no way I'm going to be engaged doing this school online. Like, I will fail every semester. There was just like no way. I didn't see any type of like real engagement. I was like, you know what, I'm just going to sign on whenever. They're not really going to be that pressure in terms of like getting assignments done on due dates. boy, was I wrong. Okay, let me just start there. When I say the engagement level was to the roof, even with my first semester, just being able to have those connections with those, if I can give any advice that anyone listens to, it's really building a connection with your professor. When I tell you those conversations, those after hours, those before classes, like any questions you have, your best resource is your professor. Because I was like, you know what, there's no way. No one's going to be on my back telling me when I got to get this done. I'll wait till Sunday. And sure enough, like any questions that I had, anything regarding, how the online process was going, while my advisor can talk about things generally, I feel like my professor was just on it. Like I had a multitude of professors just being like, hey, Kiara, whatever you need, just let me know, email me. And they were very responsive. So for me, it certainly blew my expectation out of the water because I was not expecting to have such a positive experience being an online student. I'm not in person. I was like, I'm not going to get the same education. And I honestly feel it gave me such a better experience online than I would be in person. It just felt more intimate. It was way more one-on-one. Even like my classmates being able to have our shared groups and like even coming together collectively in like a remote setting. It just felt so real, and it was a completely different experience than I had ever experienced. And now look, after pandemic, everything's remote. So it's like, oh, I got this in the bag. So like the expectation it really, I have to say, SNHU has really, really set the foundation for a lot of just like how I envision things in terms of learning, growing, and developing personally and professionally. So definitely, thank you.
Nice. With that, just hearing about your past and how you decided to come into education, and then what you've done to keep you motivated as you persist through, wanted to provide this question. So, is the reason you started the reason you finished?
I think I've kind of touched on this a little bit. No, not even close. I started at hey, you're going to do this. You're fun to get to, by the way. You're going to work and continue to pay for it, blah, blah. But my reason was definitely completely different. I found a love for learning that I didn't know that I could have or would have, and I, feeling that sense of accomplishment, finding your niche of something. Yes, I did not love every class that I had to take, but I saw the benefit in them. Coming back into my grad program, there was not a class that I did not see the benefit in. There was not a class that I didn't enjoy. I completed a HR management grad program actually in September. And I had a course on managing difficult conversations. And I'm like, well, that's 10 weeks on difficult conversations. That's interesting. But it was an amazing experience. And I've learned so much about talking with people in difficult situations and things of that. So I think the true benefit of earning the craft and being able to use extra knowledge to become a better person, become a better employee, it made such a difference to keep me motivated to keep going.
So I think my answer is yes, and also no. Like I think it's a little bit of both. I think yes, the reason I started was that I wanted to have that education, and I knew it was going to help me in any career field really that I went into. But I think no, in the sense that I changed career paths obviously through towards the end of my bachelor's. I decided that I was getting out of retail and wanted to go to law school and wanted to be able to actually help people kind of who had the same experiences that I had growing up and who have had different life experiences. And I wanted to be able to actually use my education to turn around and help other people. And I knew that I could do that with that education. And so I think that for me, yes, it was the same in the sense that I wanted that education and I wanted to learn and I wanted to be the first in my family, but no, in the sense that it wasn't then just a career check the box kind of, this is going to help me get further in my career. For me, it was now, I'm going to get this education. I'm going to go to law school, and this is going to help me turn around and help other people. And I'm just like so excited about all of the doors that it's opened, even putting me where I am now, and then all of the doors that that's going to open in the future. Like I know I can't even envision like what that entails at this point. But so yeah, I think that that may change a little bit throughout, but yeah, I don't think that's the end of the world.
I think the reason that why I started is the reason that kept me going for a while, but halfway through, um, you find out that you have some obstacles. I almost quit many times. I had to take a class once when I was on the field for 15 days. Um, I was lucky to have signal. I was taking a history class, and I don't remember the other class. And I'm doing with my iPhone. And sending the class. I let my professors know, hey, I'm on the field. I'm gonna be probably late for some classes and stuff. I always worked with the professors, and I think there was no point where I actually had a late penalty. Every time I spoke with them, and I brought the situation where I was having trouble of any reason. I think I called my student advisor many times. Said I can't do this. I'm gonna quit. I and she told me, no, you gotta keep on going, man. And she gave me so much motivation and stuff. And I think the real reason why I finished is because of the support channel that you have behind you, because at some point you get burned out, and without that support channel you're probably not going anywhere. And after I'm really close, that I get really super motivated, then I got in the situation that Jack was explaining, where you start getting addicted to it, and now nothing can stop you from keep going. Yeah, so
That is awesome. I feel like my reason was still the same as I started, but then it grew. My number one supporter was my mother. She passed away like literally my final semester with SNHU. I was like months away from like completing my degree. And I think right there, I was like, you know what, I'm done. I don't want to deal. I took like two to 3 weeks off just to like deal with the funeral arrangements and everything. And I thought I was going to lose it because here I am grieving, just had a new baby. Now I have to like finish the final semester of college. And I'm like, this is not going to work for me. I too reached out to my advisor and I said, hey, look, I don't know where to go. I don't know where to start, and I don't know where to finish. Like at this point, I just know I need to put everything on hold and not do school. And then at some point, throughout that like grieving process and that battle, I heard my mom say, keep going. I was there to see you walk across that stage as your associates, and I'm going to see you walk across that stage getting your bachelor's degree. And at that point, 3 weeks, that's a long time to miss online classes. I was so behind, but I reached out to my professors and I said, hey, even throughout like the break, please send me all the work that I missed, or please let me know like whatever deadlines I can do to get it done. And 3 weeks was 3 weeks that I pushed through. I'm happy to say, of course, I've made it through, but I think that was my biggest support system was gone. And I knew then I had to change my idea of like how I wanted to go harder. And it was finishing for my mom. I had her on my cap when I graduated, and I just felt her presence with me. And throughout that final semester, I felt that like now it's not only for my girls, but it's now for my mom. Because all she said when I started school was like, I didn't go to high school, I didn't get my high school diploma, but sure, my baby's gonna get her bachelor's degree. And like I was super happy to tell her that I got my bachelor's degree, and like the spirit around me. So definitely, I don't want to say my reason has changed, but it definitely grew stronger. My family is my number one, will always be my number one thrive. But definitely when you lose people who are your number one supporters and you don't have them at that point where you're like, the biggest celebration is like, hey, you want to call them up? I feel like you have to just do it in other aspects of life. And for me, it's making sure my bachelor's degree is hung up on my wall so everyone sees when they walk in. I'm just assuring my children that like anything is possible at this point. So definitely just growing stronger in my reasoning to like even exist outside of like furthering my education and just being the best version of myself every day.
Thank you all like so much for those messages and really just like sharing what was your experience. And so we have about 15 minutes left of the session. And at this point, we just want to open it up for questions. Feel free to come off your mic, ask your question. If you have a question for a specific panelist or all the panelists, really your preference, and would love to hear from you.
Hey, my name is Leonard. I'm one of the dedicated military career advisors here at SNHU. I work with Denise on the team, but I have a question because I'm a student. I was a student here for a few years. I put in the chat what my little history was, but I had graduated here in 14 and 15. But since I've graduated, I had a lot of multiple family members have graduated because I wanted to be that change agent, break that generational curse, like Kara said, and as well as Mateus, he said the same thing. Like, we wanted to break those generational curses. You can see my degrees here hanging on the wall. I graduated here and wanted to be an elementary school teacher, did 20 years in the service, went back to school in my 40s, like most of us, right? Everybody on this panel. But my question for all of you is, how many people have you impacted, not within your immediate family, is what I want to ask. Since you've walked across that stage, I walked across in 14 and 15, and this is very powerful because I share this with students every day. Don't stop. Show up to commencement. Bring a family member to commencement. If you live in a local area, drive up to New Hampshire from Connecticut, from New York. Come here with a family member because it's going to change the trajectory of their life. If you look in the chat, my wife has got her master's since I've graduated. All of my kids have graduated except for one. With 7 kids, 4 have gotten degrees, 2 are master's degrees. My brother, 51, got his bachelor's degree, 30 years in the Navy. My sister, who's 50, has earned her bachelor's degree. We're almost finished. She'll be done in May. And my youngest daughter is a junior here. She'll be finished next year, hopefully. What is the impact have you had on your family members to break that cycle of education not being there for you? But what have you done as far as influence those who are immediately in your pathway, your family members?
Thank you for that question. Also, I loved your bio. I was reading it as it was posted. That's an amazing accomplishment of helping them find the guidance to where to start and how to start and continue through. I've had quite a few family members since get their degrees. Some of my best friends who were on the same ship as me and said, I'm just not going to go. I'm just going to work. And I'm like, I was like, once you get into it, it's not that bad. Like, just get something. You're interested in this, there's a degree for it, and it'll make you a little bit better. Or, yeah, you want to weld, go learn how to weld, get you a business degree and open your own welding shop. And then you're your own boss and you're managing people. Like, you can do so much more than just the one little job. So since then, a few friends of mine have accomplished getting a few of their degrees. My brother-in-law, I was a huge impact on him continuing, and I'm still kind of working on him to continue to go again. And then working in the school system, I've had a unique ability to work in a couple different mentoring type groups, some with middle school students, some with high school students. And I've been able to talk with some high school students of, here's where to start. Like, just take some gen classes until you kind of figure out what you want to work with. Talk to your advisors and kind of talk through, well, I like this. What are some pathways to get me to here? Or I like this idea. What is needed for me to become a doctor or a lawyer or what? Ask the questions and kind of learn more about it. And some of those students, we have a great reputation of kids coming back to campus just to stop by when they're home from break. And a few of them have come by and said, thank you for that, because, I wasn't really heading in the right direction, and my parents were kind of in the same mode of, hey, you need to go to school, good luck. What do you want to do? Not, truly, what is your goals and where do you see yourself in the future?
Yeah, so this is an interesting question. So my husband is now an SNHU student, and so he's military, so he is working on finishing his degree. I keep telling him, I'm like, you need to finish it before you're done. Like, he's a couple of years away from retirement, so I'm like, let's get this going. And I have several of my siblings now. So I'm one of 7. There's 7 kids in my family as well, and so I have several siblings now that have not graduated yet, but that are in programs as well. So I think, encouraging those around me, trying to, like, like Jake said, encouraging family, but also encouraging. I've been a part of mentoring other law students or other people. I've been contacted by other first generation students looking at going to law school or even going to undergrad. My sister-in-law was actually an SNHU student. She just graduated this summer. And I kept encouraging her because she had a baby throughout her time as well, and was trying to finish her degree and find a job and move and do all these things. And I just kept telling her, I was like, just keep pushing forward, just little by little, get, you know, that one assignment, that 1 week done. And I think having other people that are around you and just having those conversations and encouraging people, like letting them know, hey, I've been there, it's okay, like we can do this together, and being there with them is such an impactful thing. And them seeing that you've done it and that you can do it is such an encouragement to them to take that step. And so I think, yeah, it's been so cool to like kind of bring other people along with me. So that's fun.
I just want to say it's so cool to see the ripple effect of how it's
Yeah.
this like so like new families,
Oh,
coming out of this. So I
yeah,
just
yeah,
wanted to point that out.
yeah. So I think you and me share the same mission. I I'm s- I'm so happy to see how much reach you have had within your circle to get everyone an education. And like I said, I'm trying to do the same. I got my daughter through college, um, my brother, and slowly I have become the person to kind of go and ask question about college. Like this this afternoon I have I'm gonna talk to one of my daughter's cousins because he has some questions about a program for coding, and he told my daughter, since your dad already going to college, he can probably tell me a few things about it, and I try to always be the guy that's advocating that. One of the biggest impact that I have had has been within the army, because I mean, once you're in the army, that's kind of your family for so long. You spend so much time in the unit. Um, I have directly influenced, I think it is 10 or 11 soldiers to go to college. And I made a mission of being the education advocate on my unit. And my hopes is that they do the same, and we create an effect where a compound effect where I get them to college because I motivated them, and I show them where the opportunities at, and they keep doing the same until so much people get an education because of a small thing that got started.
Awesome. For me, I am literally just inspiring my daughters every single day. I think I've done a great job as a mom, very young. With my first one, just encouraging them and inspiring them the love of learning. So always reading to them, always singing, making something very educational for them. I can't speak on my siblings. They're knuckleheads. They don't listen to me either way. But I feel like as the young one, they're seeing and visioning the light and seeing how I'm raising scholars. It inspires them to certainly put that on their children. Like for baby showers, birthdays, I'm books. I'm the aunt that gives books. For Christmas, I'm giving you a good book to read. Like I want to ensure that we never forget that the key to our real health, wealth, success is education. And it's as simple as reading every day. And I say that every day to my children. I say that to my family. So for me, it's certainly just making sure my children have someone to look forward to, look up to, and say, hey, my mom did it, I can do it too. All I can hope is that, all efforts that are being made now when my oldest becomes college ready, she's prepared and she's ready to take on that, that challenge, that life, and explore, because as you know, when you go fresh on, it's a whole different world of its own. And her growing into that young adult that she soon will be, I just want to make sure that like she's like, hey, I recall my mom sitting up till like 10 o'clock at night getting her lessons done, and like making sure she has the outlet and support needed. And for me, that's my biggest support, just making sure that my kids see that and they move, certainly if not in my footsteps, definitely ahead and better than I am, for sure.
Hey, thanks, guys. That was awesome. I love hearing that. Thank you.
Can I
Thanks,
say
Leonard, for that question. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry I was late. I was thinking it was 6 p.m. in Texas, and not 6 p.m. where y'all are. So I apologize. I'm Carrie, and my major's psychology, minor in mental health. And this is my first 8 weeks with y'all, and I didn't know I could finish my degree. I'm so excited. I have 10 classes left, and then I'll be done with my Bachelor of Arts. And so I'm pumped. My
That's
major,
awesome.
it,
Congratulations.
thank you. It was nursing, but since then I've lost my eyesight and my right eye. Doesn't matter. Anyways, I'm a fighter, and I've lost a little eyesight in this eye, but I can do it with dictation and listening to the reading and stuff, and the OAC's been helpful. I just want to say I'm so excited to be a part of SNHU, and I'm from Texas, so I'll be one of the ones on the commercial that it's like, I got my degree because I don't see myself flying up there. I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen. Maybe I will. But anyways, I just wanted to say this experience has been so great. The teachers and the advisors and the administrators, everybody here just works so, they're so kind. Everybody's been so good to me. And even my professor, I just can't imagine being anywhere else. And the fact that I get to use my credits from 93, 94, 95, 2003, 2004 is wonderful because I have so much more experience now with my uh, education towards psychiatry or psychology than I would have then. And I think it's great that we get to use our credits, and I think more colleges should do it. And I think it's the smartest way to do it because I'm 47 and my daughter's now a freshman in college. So I said, I'm going to go back too, and I'm going to beat you. So,
Well,
anyway,
Carrie, we have one more minute,
oh,
so we're gonna close things up. And yeah, and if you have any follow-ups, we put we have our information in the chat. Feel free to connect with us if we can continue to be of assistance for sure. But I want to thank our panelists for joining us this evening. I know for myself, we've heard a lot of powerful messages. We also received a lot of really good questions from our students who did register for the session. And so I want to thank, any student that did submit questions. I know given that all of those questions, we didn't get to them, but at the same time, those questions can help guide us as the work group thinks about how we move forward, what we focus on, what are the topics of interest. So yes, so we'll definitely continue to use that as a resource. And real quick, just want to throw it out there to any of my fellow members of the work group to see if you had anything that you wanted to add before we headed out.
I just wanted to share that I did put the link to the First Gen Learning Resource Group in the chat. I'm putting it again real quick. We have a flash giveaway, so if you want to participate, comment on the latest post, and hopefully we can send you some prizes.
Thank you, Helena.
I don't have anything to add beyond I think the panelists were amazing, and I think all the students and staff in the chat were so inspiring. So keep going strong, folks, who are going through these experiences. It's so great, and really kudos to the rest of the working group. Denise and James in particular, you've really pulled together a fantastic event. So thank you so much for letting us all be a part of it tonight.
Well, thank you, Dan. And I know, Tanya, did you have a quick question? No?
No,
Good?
ma'am.
Okay.
I'm good.
All right. Just wanted to check. All right. Thank you. Well, thank you again so much for being here. Thank you for Allison joining us from London. It's 11 o'clock. Raphael from Alaska. So all over. And I think that's really representative of SNHU. So this has been a great session. Really appreciate the conversation. Look forward to continued conversations and continued connections. Look forward to creating this community here at SNHU. So thanks for being a part of it this evening. You all have a great
Thank you
one.
all.
Thanks for
Uh-huh.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.